today's topic. Do white people have culture? Okay, so when people say black culture, you have to understand what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Black culture does not mean the amalgamation of all black people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, black culture represents a specific set of people who live in America who are black, whose only form of identification with people who understand each other from a certain like struggle or cultural standpoint are other blacks. And so they use the term black to identify as a group, right? White people in America view themselves as American. Black folks in America either view themselves as black or African American. There's a suffix to represent their blackness. So I think that's why people talk about black culture. And then the counterpart's like, well, white people got culture too. Yeah, but you don't really refer it as white culture. You refer to it as American culture.
Or different sub-genre of culture that you have. Yeah, there's American culture. That's why. But if you're talking about the world itself, there's no white culture. There's white cultures. You see, if you think my people are Scottish, they're white, and they have their own Scottish culture. Try to mix Scottish with Irish, they have their separate cultures. You can't do that. Try to mix Scottish, Irish, and English and call it the same, you're in for a fight.
What are you talking about, a fight? You're in for a great movie, Braveheart.
Russians. Then again, it depends what Russians, where they're from. You know what I mean?
I think the only idea of blackness or whiteness, the only place where that's kind of pervasive is in cultures or countries where multiculturalism is very prominent.
Mm-hmm.
In that people who are from minority communities feel ostracized by the greater culture.
Mm-hmm.
So like in some countries, because you feel so ostracized for either the color of your skin or your background or whatever it might be, you're going to identify with something other than the country in which you live in. Right? And so for black folks, that wasn't like, you live through segregation. You're not going to proudly call yourself an American like the other white folks because they don't see you as equals. So you find a different moniker. So you say, no, we're black people. Right? So it's a bit of a difference in that regard.
And we have that black culture that stems from the same things that we went through.
But
right?
Then you go to Africa, it's a different story. We don't identify ourselves as black people. We identify ourselves by our tribe. Even I'm from Ethiopia. It matters of which part of the country.
Mm-hmm.
Are you Oromo? Are you Amara? Tigray? So then there's all these different like vying factions, but it's never on the basis of race per se.
Yeah.
It's on so many different things. So when you talk about whiteness or black people, or you talk about this, that, it's just tribalness. I think oftentimes when you hear like black folks saying that to white people, it almost sounds like pejorative. Like, you guys have no culture. Which, I mean, on the face of it's ridiculous. Whether you go from Italians to Spanish people to Ukrainians, like the cuisine is different, the language is different, the traditions, everything. Like, of course, if you're talking about a person with a white complexion having culture, there's various forms, but they just don't identify them with race. The thing is, Americans are sometimes so enclosed in their bubble that is America that they fail to realize that white folks are drastically different in different places. Even with like, oh my God, white people can't spice their food. Go to Italy and try to tell them that they don't know how to spice their food. I'm going to tell you, you're going to eat their food, you'll be like, okay, I take that back. Right? So it really is a bit of a closed-minded perspective, one. And two, it is a very American-centric perspective.
I don't think Americans realize, I'm not saying that to diss you guys, but you guys don't realize how self-centered you are. You guys don't realize how there's more to the world than you. It's like just we went back to this subject, like just like racism. Some Americans really think that racism just exists in USA. They deny the experience of other people, and there's other things going on even within your country. There's different things that are going on except your experience.
Yeah,
that's why it's so hard sometimes to speak about racism with Americans or with people from the continents of America. It's hard to speak because they have their own relationship with what they live and everything and stuff, and they cannot get outside that box. When you think that's what we lived.
Most Americans don't know what pizza is.
No, well, they don't know
pizza.
No, they don't know pizza. They don't know. That's not. No, what they know is that New York pizza, and it's just spaghetti. Just give you something, all right? It's gonna spaghetti meatballs is not Italian.
You know, Canadians don't live in igloos. You know what I mean? Like, to be fair, it's not completely their fault. That's part education, part like America exports culture. They don't import traditionally, or if they do, it's Tex-Mex. It's not Mexican.
Yes, it's
right. So there's always that need.
I love
to
me some Mexican.
Americanize
I love me
everything.
some Mexican.
Right?
What do you like? Taco Bell. I'm like, oh,
Right?
Oh,
America-
you don't put cheese in your tacos, okay?
Yo, Americans don't watch movies with subtitles. They take your movie, cast Kevin Hart in it, and then put on English speaking
Yes.
actors. That's all they do.
Yes.
Right? So that's the way. That's the way. So it's not totally their fault, but I think that's where a lot of these ideas come from.
The ball is already rolling, so that it's like Americans are stepping on the American ball.
Yes.
And they're going down the hill.
Yeah.
And they got momentum, so they're just keeping up with it, and it's just going down. It's not, like you said, it's not completely their fault. But
Yeah, and another topic is like why don't other minorities do what Black Americans do? Like I'm Mexican, because Black Americans specifically don't have a root country to tie themselves to be more tribal.
They were
You
stolen.
know, if you ask most Latinos who live out in the States, they're very tribalistic based off of what part of Latin America you're from.
They know where they're from.
If you're Bolivian or if you're Mexican, if you're from Colombia or if you're from Peru, it's a different ballgame.
just within Mexico, the norteños, they don't with the people from you know what I mean? It could be a problem because it's a different within the same country.
Yeah, so even though you may view Asians as a whole ensemble, let me tell you, Asians, right? They vary. Chinese, Japanese, Korean, it's a different ballgame.
Thailand.
They have a richness that they can tie themselves to be more tribalistic. And so I think that's why
Filipinos.
they don't go like, whoa, yellow people. It's not the way it works. It's a different history. It's a different experience. So I think that's why there's that thing with blackness specifically. And I think the last thing I just want to bring up is like some people ask like, why do you feel the need to tie yourself to a culture or to anything? And I think the main thing is people just want to belong. People want to feel like they fit in. And sometimes when you live in a country that you are not the majority, it feels very difficult to feel like you're supposed to be there. So you try to find groups to identify yourself with, whether it's, and you can find that even on like a microscopic level. Like if you even take like school, you're going to a new school, you're just trying to find a group that you fit in with within this. People will be like, why don't you just be a loner? It's like, it doesn't work that well.
You can, but I mean,
need-
it's not most people. You know what I mean? You got fraternities and sororities.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. You're gonna tell me that you went to college, you put the blazer of an animal that you probably fear, go Gators, your whole semester, but you can't understand how belonging feels like? Really?
Yeah. You know, it's also one of those things like, I didn't even think that was that important either until I went to Brazil one year. And then I was walking through the streets and like nobody stared at me when I went to neighborhood. Like
'cause you-
everyone just assumed I was Brazilian because apparently I kind of fit in some ways. And because everyone looks kind of Brazilian in a good way.
Yeah, exactly. There's a palette of people. There's like
Yeah.
It's like
the
going
spectrum.
To spectrum. It's like going to Cuba.
Yeah.
You're white, you could be Cuban. You're black, you could be Cuban.
So there's that feeling of like, oh, I can just relax a little bit more because I'm not just looked at because like, oh my God, I want to touch your hair, or oh my God, I don't want you dating my daughter because like, I don't have to
Or you
worry.
step inside a store, depending on what kind of store you're gonna be. You know, people are not gonna look at you if you go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So I just think there's that feeling of just relax that you feel when you're in a group or an environment where you feel at home. That's all it is. It's just a sense of belonging, a sense of home. That's all it is. So I think that's why people always want to be tied to something. And it can be tough when you're far away from your homeland or anything that you can really feel like that. It's difficult. So for people who don't understand it, you might get that opportunity when you live in a country where you're the minority and you don't always get treated the best in some situations.
And especially like for white people, whenever they go to countries that people are white, but the white people can still know, they can still look at you and know that you're different just by looking at you. You go to Russia and you're American, you're white, they're gonna know. They're gonna know. You're gonna feel some type of way. If you hear, God damn, I can't have no service here, and you're like, oh, another American in Russia, you're gonna feel something that's gonna be close to home. That's the feeling. And you not having, well, I don't feel like I'm belonging, I don't need to belong, that's a privilege because you don't need that, because everywhere you go, you
it's
kind
not.
of finish.
It's not. It's not. You want to tell me why?
Go ahead.
Because when I used to live in Ethiopia, I can assure you the white people band with the white people.
I know.
They eat at the same tables, they eat at the same restaurants, and they hang out with each other.
But why is it not? What were you saying it's not?
But my whole point is like it's not their privilege. So even when they go to other countries, they also try to form their
That's
own
what I'm saying. But
community.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I said. You go to Russia and you've been there for a couple of days, a couple of weeks, and then you just try to speak
okay,
Russian,
okay, I
and
get
then
you.
you hear an American, you're gonna be like, oh. Where you from, dude?
Yeah.
I'm from Wisconsin. Well, I'm from New York, but what's up?
Yeah, you know.
what I mean?
You're right. You're right.
You know what I meant?
Yeah, you're right. So yeah, I get where you guys are coming from, and some of you might be annoyed by it, but it's really not as big as it really seems.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, yeah, that's what it is. So hopefully this video was interesting for you guys and you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a comment below. Do all that good stuff, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Yo quiero mi morena, tan rico que se ve mi morena. Mira cómo mueve, así mi morena. Mira cómo goza, mi morena.